The Hyena Who Lost Her Laugh, a story about changing your negative thinking. Hillary had not gone outside all day. She sat meekly at her bedroom desk, with her head in her hands, thinking and worrying. Hillary's mom walked in, and Hillary didn't even look at her. "Hillary, come out of your room, please. Come down to the kitchen, and we'll have some cookies and a chat." "No thanks, Mom. I don't feel like it." Earlier that day, Hillary's friends had come over to see her. "Hey, Hillary, come on out and play with us," her best friend Harry shouted. "We're chasing birds." "No thanks, guys. I don't feel like it," Hillary replied without any of her usual enthusiasm. Hillary was popular among the other hyenas because she laughed so much. She had a wonderful laugh that sounded like parrots squawking, dishes breaking, and bells ringing all at once. All the hyenas knew when Hillary was laughing, but her friends hadn't heard that laugh for weeks. Later, when Hillary's brother Franklin came into her bedroom to talk, Hillary didn't smile. She didn't even seem to care he was there. She just really wanted to fall asleep. Franklin made funny faces, and Hillary yawned. He stood on his head, and Hillary sighed. He even tried to tickle her with feathers, but she only looked annoyed. "Come on, Hillary, I know there's a laugh in you. Let me hear it," he begged. "Not now, Franklin. I'm not in the mood," Hillary said. Hillary didn't feel interested in any of the activities she used to like, and she really didn't know why. When her dad came home, he went into her bedroom to speak with her. "What's wrong, Hillary?" he asked. Hillary only sighed and said, "Everything. It started last week. Mrs. Toothin told us we were going to have a spelling test. I was excited because I'm really good at spelling. At least I thought I was. I studied a lot of words, but I still got a D on the test. I guess I'm just stupid." Hillary got even more upset as she continued to tell her dad about the events of the past week. "When my friends and I were playing kickball after school, I dropped the ball and our team lost the tournament. Now all my friends hate me. I can't do anything right. I'm no good in school and I'm no good at sports." "It sounds like you've had a rough week," Hillary's dad said as he pulled up a stool to sit next to her. "It's been terrible," Hillary agreed. "Maybe you should try looking at it all in a different way," he said. "You said you were good at spelling, but maybe the words on the spelling test were different than the ones you studied. Maybe you just need to study harder next time." Then Hillary's dad put his arms around her shoulders. "And as far as the kickball game goes, it sounds like you just made a mistake." "Everyone makes a mistake sometimes," Hillary's dad explained. "You just don't understand," Hillary said softly as she began to cry. "I understand it felt awful to get a D," said Hillary's dad. "And when you made a mistake and your team lost the tournament, I know you felt responsible. But do you really think your friends hate you? Would you hate one of your teammates if she made the same mistake?" "I guess not," said Hillary. "Sometimes, if you think about things differently, you feel differently," Hillary's dad said. "I want you to try to think more positively from now on. If you catch yourself having a negative thought and feeling sorry for yourself, I want you to change that thought into a positive one. I think you'll find a positive attitude goes a long way to solving most problems." Hillary's dad patted her on the head and left her alone to think about what he had said. Hillary felt a little better, but she hardly felt like laughing. "It won't make any difference. I'm still a failure. But I'll give it a try," Hillary thought to herself. Hillary got up from her chair, determined to try. The next day, Hillary had a drum lesson. She played well for the first 2 pages of music, but on the 3rd page, she made a mistake. She dropped her drumsticks and sank to the floor. "I'm terrible at drumming," she complained to her drum teacher. "I don't know why my parents are making me learn an instrument. Don't they know I'm not good at anything?" Mr. Bailey, her drum teacher, stared at her in bewilderment. "You just made one mistake, Hillary," he said. "Making a mistake doesn't mean you're bad at something. It just means you need to try again, a little harder." Hillary was feeling like things were hopeless, but she thought about what her dad had said. It sounded a lot like what Mr. Bailey had just told her. Maybe I'm not so terrible at drumming, and maybe I did just make a mistake, she thought. Hillary picked up her drumsticks once again and tried a little harder. She did make another mistake, but it wasn't until the 4th page of music, and then she just kept going. It's just a mistake, and it's not the same one as before, so I did learn something, she thought to herself. By the end of the lesson, she could play that piece perfectly. After her drum lesson, Hillary was feeling much better. She really loved playing the drums. But then she heard a voice inside her say something that made her feel bad again. The voice said, "Just because you finally got one piece right doesn't mean you're not stupid. You'll probably mess up the next time. You never do anything right." Hillary started to feel upset again. But then she thought, what if it's the other way around? What if I am smart, but sometimes I still can't get things right? Does that mean I should give up? No way. Hillary started to feel better again once she thought about it differently. The next day, Hillary went to her friend Janet's house. Janet was using paper and glue and crayons and scissors to make a rocket ship. "Janet, you're so good at making things. I'd never be able to come up with an idea for making paper rocket ships like you did," Hillary said. "I bet you can make one just like mine. Just watch how I do it. Grab some supplies and try," Janet said. Hillary sat down next to Janet and started working, paying close attention to what Janet was doing. But no matter what Hillary did, her rocket ship didn't look anything like Janet's. It didn't look like anything at all. "It's no use, Janet. I'm using the same stuff as you. I think I'm doing what you're doing, but I'm just making a big mess of it all," Hillary said, holding up a poor imitation of Janet's rocket ship. Suddenly, the room was filled with the sound of paper tearing. Hillary was so totally frustrated and sad, she just tore her work into a zillion pieces. "Why did you do that?" Janet asked. "Mine was stinky," said Hillary. "It wasn't as good as yours. No matter how hard I try, I could never make things like you do." "That's not true," said Janet. "My first rocket ship looked worse than yours. This was your first one, Hillary. When you've made as many as I have, yours will look great too." "Really?" asked Hillary. "Really," said Janet. Later that afternoon, when Hillary returned home from Janet's house, Hillary's mom was busy preparing dinner. "Hillary, would you give me a hand? Would you bake a cake for dessert tonight?" her mom asked. "Sure, Mom. You know I love to bake, and I'm really hungry. A cake after dinner sounds great to me," Hillary said. Hillary measured out the ingredients into a large bowl, one by one, the flour and the sugar and all the rest. After dinner, everyone was eager to taste Hillary's cake. It looked almost too good to eat. Hillary's dad took a big bite and said, "This is going to taste so..." Then he gasped with a strange look on his face and tried to swallow the cake. Hillary took a big bite herself and knew immediately what the problem was. She had added too much salt. It felt gritty in the mouth, and it burned all the way down. Hillary's eyes filled with tears. She had ruined dinner. Don't cry, said Franklin. The icing is really great. Don't cry, said Hilary's mom. Franklin's right. The icing is really, really great. Don't cry, said Hilary's dad. This is the best icing I've ever tasted. Then, to everyone's surprise, Hilary stood up and laughed. Her laugh shook the whole room. It made the forks fall off the table. Even the light above the table started swinging. I put too much salt in the cake. It's terrible, Hilary laughed. That's the yuckiest cake I have ever tasted. And Hilary laughed even harder. And her family laughed too. But no one laughed quite like Hilary. When everyone finally stopped laughing, Hilary asked, "Can I make another cake after dinner, Mom?" Hilary's mom smiled. "Of course you can. If at first you don't succeed, try again." That's just what I'll do, Hilary thought, as she began laughing again.